On the American agenda tonight, the revolution in your living room. Most all of us who watch television, not to mention those of us who work in it, have at least the sense that the whole television universe is shifting under our feet. On this broadcast, for example, we sometimes wonder not how, but where we will fit in the new world of 500 channels. And we're as confused as anyone. So we asked our media analyst, Jeff Greenfield, to spend the next 3 nights guiding us down this new information superhighway so that we may know better how to tune in tomorrow.
We don't always know what the future is going to look like. In 1939, this is what they thought 1960 would be like.
Many of the buildings are landing decks for helicopters and autogyros.
In 1964, they thought we'd be living like this by now.
Vehicles electronically paced, travel routes remarkably safe, swift, and efficient.
But when it comes to the most commonly shared experience in American life, watching television, there's no doubt that the future is not just around the corner, but knocking on the front door. Television is about to be literally reinvented, a reinvention of enormous significance.
Over a generation, I think it's going to be as important as the television and the telephone were.
The decisions which we're making right now will, to a very large extent, shape the identity of the United States as an economy and as a people.
At first, it may not look like much of a revolution, just a lot more of the same. Cable customers in parts of New York are already wired for 150 channels, and within a few years, 500 channel systems will be commonplace. And so will cable channels aimed at ever narrower tastes. At that rate, if you spend 5 seconds looking at each channel, it would take you more than 40 minutes just to surf through a 500-channel system. But that's not what is coming. This is television you can really talk back to.
Hi, Jack.
Hey, Randy, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
The real story is that the whole nature of television is changing. From a one-way communication system to a world where you tell your TV set what you want to see, when you want to see it.
Let's see what's available. The 3rd of October.
And this is the heart of the revolution. A cable of optic fiber so efficient that one strand can transmit the entire Encyclopedia Britannica in 1 second. It can move pictures, sound, and data back and forth. And that's the key, back and forth. What's happening now is that the features of cable TV, the telephone, and the computer are all converging into one device, one that makes it possible to tap into an apparently limitless universe of entertainment and information, a universe where today's couch potato is tomorrow's navigator. Author George Gilder was one of the first to see just how big a change is coming.
Just as you can pick up the telephone today and call anybody you want on the face of the earth, you'll be able to dial up any database, theater, library, church, any university classroom.
A hint of what is coming can be seen right now on Montreal's Videoway system. Viewers watching a baseball game can push a button on their remote control and call up a player's statistics, even his salary. And some cable systems are already trying out video on demand. You tell your TV set what kind of TV show or movie you want to see, you preview it, and order and pay for it with a click of your remote control. You can play a high-tech video game with a friend across town or across the country. And home shopping will become something more than watching cubic zirconiums float by. It will mean calling up what you want to shop for, examining the goods, and ordering them. More significant, as cable and phone companies battle to build this information superhighway, the possibility of ordering up books or health records, or receiving and sending work from the home, starts to become much more than a pipe dream. Vice President Gore has been a leading advocate for the information superhighway for years.
I want to see a time when a school child can come home after class and instead of playing a video game, plug into the Library of Congress and explore a whole universe of information, not in terms of words alone, but in terms of vivid, color-moving pictures that respond to that child's imagination. Why not? We know how to do it technologically.
But there's also a lot we don't know. How much interactivity do viewers really want? How much is it going to cost?
On the American agenda tonight, our second journey down the information superhighway. As we tried to illustrate last night, pretty soon you'll be able to tell your television what you want to see, when you want to see it. There is a fortune to be made, or lost, on this new technology. And on the agenda tonight, the players. Jeff Greenfield on the battle to control what will be available for you to tune in tomorrow.
Can't get Jurassic Park back online.
From the creators of these prehistoric images to the creators of these futuristic images, to America's wealthiest entrepreneur, to America's biggest corporate giants, everyone wants a piece of it. What is it? It's the much heralded information revolution, coming soon to a living room near you. For most of us, it's going to mean hundreds of new channels and thousands of choices put directly into our hands. But for many of America's biggest businesses and for countless entrepreneurs, the coming of a two-way fiber optic information highway means that huge amounts of money are up for grabs. How huge?
We're looking at something that may exceed $3 trillion over the next decade. It's going to be the biggest industry of the world.
Those kind of stakes have some of the best-known players across the corporate landscape scrambling to make sure they have their own toll booths along this information superhighway, even if that means joining with traditional enemies. For instance, for years, telephone companies have battled for the right to operate and to program cable TV systems. The cable television industry has fought just as hard to keep the phone companies out. But now US West, one of the local phone companies, has invested $2.5 billion for a piece of Time Warner, a media giant that runs the second biggest cable operation in America, as well as HBO, Time Magazine, and a major movie studio.
What's up?
Why?
Answer call.
Because the old distinctions between ways of communicating may be disappearing.
My guess is that the traditional definitions of what is a telephone company, what is a computer company, and what is a cable company will all blur. And a number of these companies will be in all three areas.
What these companies will all be trying to do is to make interactivity simple as pointing a remote control device at a TV screen. That's why John Malone, who runs America's biggest cable company, has teamed up with Microsoft founder Bill Gates, who made computers simple to run and became one of the richest men in America in the process.
Anyone who invests in this area, which Microsoft is in a major way, is making a bet on interactivity, making a bet that the idea of selecting movies, seeing what movies your friends are doing, playing games together, getting advice across the network, that kind of interaction will be very exciting to millions and millions of people.
The search to make interactive television simple and fun has led Time Warner to a partnership with Silicon Graphics, the company whose computers created the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. Now the company wants to design the roadmap that will lead viewers along the information highway.
To be done so that the consumer doesn't have to do anything other than point to the screen and say, I want to watch that video, and be able to select it with ease.
Telephone companies and cable TV companies are both looking for new sources for the entertainment dollar by hooking up with major video game companies.
You're not going to be limited to just a passive experience. You'll be able to actually act out your fantasies.
Everyone's trying to position themselves for tomorrow. That's why Paramount, a major movie TV studio, is the subject of a multi-billion-dollar bidding war between two cable TV giants. But for all of this, is anyone really sure that the public wants all this choice? For example, only a handful of customers in the Los Angeles suburb of Cerritos are using the interactive shopping system that's been available for 4 years on their experimental cable system. But, say the optimists, consumers have to learn what's available before they even know they want it.
If you went back to the 1950s and you asked consumers if they ever thought they would spend hundreds of dollars a year on cable TV, they probably would say not a chance.
As America's major corporate players alternately embrace and battle each other, other questions linger. What happens to today's TV networks? Should the government limit how much bigger the big boys can get? And if consumers are going to have to pay for access to this information highway, what about those who can't afford the toll?
Television is in the process of revolutionary change. Look at it this way. Sociologists and other educators argue that spending too much time sitting in front of the television is to risk stunting one's intellectual growth and imagination. So what happens in the future when it may be absolutely necessary to watch a lot of TV in order to get certain things done? Once again, our agenda reporter is Jeff Greenfield.
If you want to get the album, you simply
They call
order
it the
CD.
Information Superhighway, the coming network of two-way communications that will soon carry a limitless flow of entertainment and information to and from the home for a price. But will this superhighway go here, to a community like West Oakland that already lacks so much of what most of us take for granted?
They cannot get the basic government sources and services. They don't get supermarkets. They don't have ATMs.
So what will happen in these neighborhoods where families cannot afford the link to the information highway? Remember, this is not about free HBO or sports channel, but about access to the way America will be learning and working in the coming years.
That technology will not be available, and we're going to create even more of a social stratification in this country.
It's a concern that goes right to the top.
Poor kids today aren't given the money to buy books, but they're given access to the public library system, and we can give all Americans access to digital libraries.
But that's not something the major corporate players are going to put at the top of their agendas, as one leader in the cable TV industry candidly recognizes.
Nobody wants to go out and invent something and invest hundreds of millions of dollars of risk capital for the public interest. You know, I mean, one would be fired as an executive of a profit-making company if you took that stance.
This emphasis on profit has some in Congress worried that the coming information superhighway may be dominated by a handful of big boys.
We have to afford real protections against the worst instincts of monopolists. The first game that one of these telephone companies might want to put on their wire is Pac-Man, where they just gobble up all the cable companies in their own region.
This issue, who will control the information highway, is not just about cost. It goes to what some see as the key question about two-way communications.
How are we going to let citizens participate in the communications revolution? Are they going to continue to be recipients of sort of a one-way broadcast-like medium in which they're very passive, or will there be more real interactivity and more real participation?
Right now, for example, millions of computer-literate Americans are participating in thousands of electronic communities through services like Prodigy, America Online, the Internet. They're playing games with each other. They're exchanging opinions on books. They're fantasizing about sex. They're also searching for their birth parents, and they're finding allies for their political causes. When the interactive power of today's computer is put inside tomorrow's television set, and when it becomes as easy to access as a few flicks on a remote control, the impact could be literally revolutionary.
This type of medium could enable a Jeffersonian revolution in our civic life by empowering individuals and communities to communicate with each other, to take action.
But a question, if we're all communicating with each other, what happens to the traditional model of broadcasting, the once dominant major networks? ABC's Bob Iger says, don't blow taps just yet.
We're very comfortable for the consumer. We are there. We're there all the time, and we're there in a very regular, orderly fashion. And I believe that in a world in which there is massive choice, there's still going to be a need on the part of the consumer for someone else to create an order.
The past teaches us that the present is never very good at predicting the future. But what does seem safe to predict is that it will soon be possible to live much more of your life through the tube than it is right now. Whether that picture of the future excites or depresses you is your call. Jeff Greenfield, ABC News, New York.
Our final report on this conventional television broadcast in just a moment.